It's generally a pretty accepted notion that when something becomes successful, there will always be a price. Maybe it's a sacrifice, money, time, but in the case of the amazing digital circus, it got what is quite possibly the worst fate imaginable. It became the new face of Elsa Gate.
Look how they massacred my boy.
YouTube slop shout out to the brain-rotted minds of children. I only bring this up because the amazing digital circus is really freaking good, guys. And I'm kinda bummed out to see it mangled like this. It might give people a bad impression of it and make them stay away. So I decided to take it upon myself to review the pilot and try to shine a better light on it to help give it a more positive look. Because they really need it, guys. I mean, they're only sitting at a low 300 million views. So yeah, all 12 of my subscribers really have their work cut out for them. Like the title suggests, the setting of the show is in a completely digital world that's very, but not completely, circus themed. Yet at least. We've only seen the main tent so far, so who knows what horrors await us at the amusement park. The grounds are ran and controlled by an AI called Kane, a tuxedo-wearing pair of teeth with floating eyeballs. And goddammit, I can already see him as a Tumblr sexy man. The opening sequence does an amazing job at showing off how goddamn beautiful the animation is. Seriously, words don't do it justice. There is so much love and attention put into every single shot of the show. It all looks so smooth and fluid, like my tapeworm crawling through my rectum. The intro is interrupted by the arrival of a new character, Pomni, who acts as our introduction to this crazy new world. Through her, we learned that these 6 characters ended up here by putting on a VR headset and have no way of getting out, which is slowly driving everyone insane. And that's one of my favorite things about the amazing digital circus, the underlying dread and complete hopelessness of the show. These poor saps are trapped in an eternal, dream. I can't even call it a nightmare. It presents itself as a silly and wacky world. You know, a circus. But these characters are barely hanging on to their sanity, and there's just a very morbid humor to it, like a hysterical laughter. Each character has their own distinct personalities that the pilot does a good job at introducing to us. We have Kane, who is a very charismatic and extroverted game show host-like ringleader, god what a mouthful, who seemingly just wants everyone to enjoy themselves in his world. Pomni is our main character. She instantly loses her mind and I love it. She is a complete jittery and spatic awkward mess, flinching and reacting to everything. It makes me wonder if all the other characters were like this when they first came here. I love her jester-like design. It's very eye-catching and adorable, especially with her little noodle arms. It just makes you want to hug her. Ragatha is a very friendly and sisterly-like character. She tries her best to keep it together, though her stitches are definitely starting to loosen up. You can tell she just wants everyone to be okay, and unfortunately it gets her into a hot mess, but we'll get to that later. Her frilly doll design is simple, but gets the message across. I especially like her wild, unkempt hair, hinting that maybe she isn't as kept together as she thinks she is. Jax is a complete, unapologetic a-hole. He seems to have this compulsive desire to ruin and mess everything up for seemingly no other reason than for his own amusement. I think no scene better portrays this than when, after knocking over bowling pins, a graphic shows up and he goes back to it just to break it. I love it. It seems to me like it's his own way of coping, and ironically enough, he seems the most put together out of everyone else. So kids, if you're sad or angry about your parents' divorce, just go out there and commit arson. His perpetual shit-eating grin is the cherry on top of this bag of jerky. I especially like how he sounds like he's actually speaking without moving his teeth.
Oh no, they killed Zubul. Anyway, you guys wanna go get something to eat?
Zubul admittedly doesn't get to do a whole lot in this episode. They're mostly just perpetually pissed off and get their head kidnapped. Which just goes to show how screwed you can get if you end up with an undesirable body in this world. I don't even know how to describe their body apart from just a mess. Maybe that's why they're so grouchy all the time. Next we have Gangle, a true tragic hero if I've ever seen one. Why? Well, because she's a weeb. Nah, I'm kidding, of course. She's just sad about her comedy mask being broken, so she's a bit of an on and off switch. But only if that switch was taped to constantly be off. Her design definitely shows how frail and sensitive she is, and is a good use of the classic theater icon. Last and least, we have Kinger. He is an absolute delight between vacant 1,000-yard stares and erratic malfunctions. Apparently he's been in the circus the longest, which explains why he's so crazy. His buggy wide eyes do all the speaking for him. Even if the rest of his design isn't terribly interesting, it's still creative enough. There's also this little guy Bubble who is like Kane's wingman, or wing bubble. We only have 25 minutes to meet these guys, but I think the pilot does a great job at introducing them and making them likable. Yes, even Jax. So while Kane is giving Pomni the grand tour, she notices an exit doorway and is convinced there's gotta be a way out. Either that or it's eternal algebra classes. So Ragatha and Jax take her to Kaufmo, or as I like to call him, Mo, a clown character who's also been rambling about an exit. Meanwhile, Kinger and Gango go play Kane's game and also try to save Zubul, who's been taken by these little sheep pests. But when they get to Kaufmo, it's revealed that he's been abstracted, the fate that awaits everyone who goes insane in the circus. And that just adds another dark layer into this whole premise. You either go along with Kane's games, or risk losing your sanity and turning into this blob of eyes and glitches. And it doesn't even end there. Rather than being fixed or even be put down like a rabid dog, you're just tucked away into an endless sea of other victims. Out of sight, out of mind. So in the scuffle, Ragatha gets cursed with low ping, and Pomni looks for Kane to fix her. This is one of my favorite parts of the pilot. Her looking around, opening doors to whatever nonsensical or even painful thing awaits behind. Just adds more crazy to the party. Who knows if we'll ever see any of this again. It's around this time she stops in front of a mirror and sees her own reflection. You don't really think about how these characters wouldn't know what they actually look like, at least not their own faces. So Pomni seeing herself for the first time makes you realize how surreal and weird it would be to wake up in a completely different body from your own. It's a nice moment, followed up by her finding the exit already. Man, I thought this was gonna be like a 10-episode ordeal. Naturally, she goes in, leaving everyone else behind. A little selfish, but not completely unreasonable. Pomni has been wanting to escape for only the entire time she's been here, and seeing how people are driven to insanity, yeah, who wouldn't take the first opportunity to leave? She finds herself in the back rooms. I mean, the similarities are kinda impossible to avoid. What with the infinite hallways of subliminal office spaces, which let me just say, Pomni's colorful, cartoony appearance is such a good contrast to the doom and gloom of the office spaces. We don't know how humans look like in this world, but I can imagine how wrong they would look next to these characters. Finally, she opens the door to the edge of the universe. More specifically, the void, which is when Kane is alerted to her location and promptly takes her back to the main grounds. He cleans up the mess that Mo made and prepares everyone a digital feast. The pilot ends with one last glimpse into Pomni's breaking mind as an orchestra starts playing to zoom out and show the world they are all trapped in. A very strong first impression with great characters, an interesting premise, a colorful and zany setting, and lots of mysteries to be solved. I love the uneasy backdrop and psychological torment going on in this show. I know I keep bringing it up about how everyone is losing their minds, but that's because the show keeps reiterating that these guys are not okay. They've accepted that there's no way out, that this is their life now. They can't even remember their real names, so they're given new ones, and all they can do is go through the motions. Play along to whatever activity their AI overlord has planned for them, or risk abstracting into a horrible beast forever. There's no death or release for them, and all they can do is hang on as long as possible. And we can see that many past characters have failed to keep themselves together and are just a shapeless memory, a constant reminder of what awaits everyone eventually. And Pomni especially is taking it pretty badly. The show is great at conveying emotions through their expressive characters. Pomni's eyes themselves tell 1,000 stories, none of them making sense. She's having a hard time accepting her new reality, refusing to accept that any of this is real. She's essentially having the worst existential crisis ever. And it's not until the end where she slowly comes to terms with her new prison, or at least tries to. And the reveal that the exit was not real is soul crushing. Kane wanted to make an exit because everyone kept asking for one, but he wasn't able to comprehend the true meaning of why they wanted one, and couldn't think of what to put on the other side, so he just scrapped it. It's funny, but wow, the way to kick them while they're down, Kane. He's such an interesting character. He doesn't seem outwardly malicious, but at the same time, is kinda apathetic to everyone's concerns, just deciding to sweep things under the rug when they don't go right. Apparently he's an AI, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anyone has called him that in the show yet. It's only been a pilot, and he definitely doesn't act as human as the other guys, but to be fair, neither does Kinger. But I find it interesting that he's still active, even when no one was around to see him. So whether or not he's real, whether he's evil, or just part of something bigger, we'll just have to wait and see. The last thing I want to mention is how funny the show is.
Do you think pairing them up together is a good idea?
Of course I do. They're the two most mentally stable and capable characters to be paired together.
Apart from its dark humor, it's got some solid gags and jokes thrown in. Everything from the collisions going crazy, to Pomni's barf being low quality textures, to Jax being Jax. There's some really fun stuff here. And the music, the orchestral theme. Oh, heavens to Betsy. It gives off vibes of sinister grandeur, where you know something big is approaching, and you probably won't be ready for it. And now we get to the predictions. Let's just throw guesses to the walls and brag about being right when the reveal just barely resembles what you guessed it was going to be. So I only had one major theory about what was going to happen, but I forgot it. And I was really bummed out because in my mind it was really good. But I think I remembered it. It was basically just lag switching Kane out of existence. My prediction is they're going to overload the system since this is all just digital. And it was going to break Kane's control over the world, and that's how they were going to escape. Or at least get away from his prying eyes. But yeah, that was basically the extent of it. Another prediction I have is pretty much the obvious one that everyone else has. The void is the exit. A pretty obvious setup. Maybe they'll subvert our expectations by not subverting our expectations and actually making the void the exit. And another idea I had was when we see the VR headset and the computer that this is all taking place in, we don't see the bodies of Pomni or anyone else. So maybe their consciousness were uploaded and a few shady businessmen came along and took the bodies away. Or maybe their whole bodies were sucked into the system. Who knows? And yeah, that's it. That's all she wrote. Got no other theories, so crossing fingers that I'm vaguely right about anything. I think Digital Circus is wholly deserving of its overnight success. Not even overnight, it got popular within minutes. Due largely thanks to all the teasers and promotional materials, it was slated to be a slam dunk. And I'm glad it got it, despite the darker side to its popularity. And we're due for a new episode in, holy crap, just a few days. And they already have both official and bootleg merch for it, Jesus Christ. The circus is in town, folks, and it's gonna leave a lot of animal shit everywhere. But don't let it bother you. Just sit back and enjoy the show. Also, is it just me, or do the new Digital Circus thumbnails kinda resemble those clickbaity kid videos? I wonder if that was on purpose.